The SEC and Big Ten could schedule regular season football matchups. Plus, Athletes Unlimited Softball Commissioner Kim Ng joins us to talk Major League Baseball's major investment in the Upstart League. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington. Thank you guys so much for joining us each and every weekday as we're chatting the biggest stories happening around the business and culture of sports. We've also got 4-time Olympic champion, 8-time world champ, and the founder of Grand Slam Track, Michael Johnson, joining us. But first, let's get into the shoot-around.
Yes, indeed. And let's start with two teams punching their tickets to their respected championship games as the Oklahoma City Thunder became the second youngest team to ever reach the NBA Finals. This after they thrashed the Minnesota Timberwolves Wednesday night to win their series 4-1. Now, OKC last made the finals in 2012. Meanwhile, it's the third straight year for the Stanley Cup Finals for the Florida Panthers. This after a come-from-behind victory against the Carolina Hurricanes on Wednesday night as well. So, Renee, which of these are the bigger wins here for these teams?
It's interesting because Florida's relatively young across the NHL in terms of average age, but they are the 6th highest in terms of payroll. And as a team that's defending champs, that now has punched their ticket with that 3-goal second period back in the Stanley Cup Finals, I'm not as surprised about that one as I am with OKC. Last time they made the finals in 2012, at that time they were the second youngest in NBA history in terms of roster age. And so for this group to be the lowest, one of the lowest payrolls across the league, they have MVP in SGA, and also just to be able to redeem themselves on the 9-year anniversary when they first blew that 3-1 lead to the Warriors back in 2016. I'm happiest, I guess, in that regard, and most surprised by this OKC team's quick turnaround to be top of the charts.
Yeah, as I mentioned, the second youngest team to make the NBA Finals. The first, by the way, the 1977 Portland Trailblazers led by 24-year-old Bill Walton. Meanwhile, Nike has raised prices on many of their best-selling sneakers by as much as $10. And that includes on Air Max 270s and Zoom Fly 6s. BMO Capital Markets noticed the 2 to 6% increase on many items over on Nike's website, but the company is not citing tariffs as the reason for those hikes. Instead, quote, seasonal adjustments. The footwear industry obviously has been hit really hard by President Trump's tariffs as Nike produces much of their goods in China and Taiwan, Renee.
Sneakerheads, your addiction just got that much more expensive. Yep. It's interesting they mention it's not because of tariffs because, when you look at how they've reevaluated their business and making those pricing adjustments, yes, that sounds good, but the reality is by adjusting the prices, it also does offset when tariffs do happen. But then also in March, they reported a 9% decline in their Q4 sales for 2024. So then now you raise prices. It's very odd, but the timing of it is interesting, especially since they tried to secretly just roll it out there.
By the way, Air Force Ones, rumored, have not been impacted by this. And other reports out there are if the shoes are over $115, likely not impacted.
And also
either.
Any children's shoes are not going to have an increase. So for the kiddos, buy them their sneaks.
All right, finally, Candace Parker going to get her jersey retired by yet another team this year as the Chicago Sky announced that they're going to hang her iconic number 3 jersey in the rafters this August, even though Candace Parker only played 2 seasons with the team. Parker also is going to have her jersey retired by her original team, the LA Sparks, this June. So, Renee, this means Parker will be the first WNBA player to have her number retired by multiple teams, which is great because Candace Parker is amazing.
The jersey retirement tour for Ace continues. And I love that they were very intentional about making sure it was when the Aces play the Sky.
Which she did play for.
Retirement. Exactly. So maybe she'll also get her jersey retired for the Aces as well. But I know there were some that criticized this because she only played 2 seasons with the Chicago Sky and did not retire with them. No. She played her final season with the Aces where she won a championship.
Right.
So the petty in a lot of people is kind of like, why is her jersey being retired?
But she won it with the Sky,
that's her hometown team. She brought them their first ever championship. And for her to return back to Chicago, bring them that title before departing, I think she deserves to be retired in Chicago. And she's one of the greatest women's basketball players of all time in just terms of her impact. So I'm all for this and thrilled to see Candace Parker get her jersey retired.
And a lot of players have had their jerseys retired by playing less than 2 seasons with another
Absolutely. Give
team.
her flowers. She deserves it.
Amen. Well, ahead of its inaugural season in June, the Upstart Athletes Unlimited Softball League got a major 8-figure investment from Major League Baseball, a big investment for women's sports. So let's go deeper in this in our main event. And joining us now is Kim Ng, the commissioner of the Athletes Unlimited Softball League. Kim, great to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us. Let's talk about this great investment coming from Major League Baseball. Tell us a little bit more about it. What do you sort of hope this accomplishes here?
For us, first of all, this is just a huge announcement for for Athletes Unlimited as well as for women's pro softball. Unbelievable. So in terms of the announcement, what we're going to see is amplification on all of MLB's platforms, which is just so exciting. So we're talking the network, we're talking MLB.TV, we're talking social, sponsorships, partnerships, all across the board. And then, in terms of youth participation, I think, we're talking crossover fans and, just a whole separate market for us at this point. But it's been the response that we're getting has been amazing.
And what I love, Kim, is with this investment, Major League Baseball is going to help raise visibility, storytelling, involvement in whether the postseason, All-Star game, and even being able to broadcast the games on the MLB network. I'm curious, though, since there have been previous iterations of softball leagues, why now does this partnership seem like it makes most sense for both parties? And what seems to be the most encouraging aspect about the involvement Major League Baseball has?
I think one of the most important things is I think the time is right, given where women's pro sports are. From Caitlin Clark in the NCAA finals and that drawing anywhere from 19 to 24 million, over the last few minutes of the game, to what, where the NWSL is. And I think it has opened up quite a lot of eyes. And, right now, and I will say that MLB has worked diligently on the youth participation aspect. I was here a number of years ago, and we were really trying to connect to women's pro softball, the Olympic team. Where we are in this moment of time is really just, it's amazing. And so I think, for MLB to jump on board at this point, is truly a telltale sign of where we are. So really excited about it.
Kim, there's been reports out there that maybe MLB's stake in this league is about 20%. Can you confirm that, or can you tell us what percent that the league is going to be taking in you guys?
So we're not going to confirm any of those reports, but what I can tell you is that there was a financial investment. That will help with our operational costs. And then, as we talked about, just in terms of amplification and the logos side by side, that's incredibly powerful for us in terms of creating a self-sustaining league. And that's, we talked about previous iterations, right? They needed a runway. And I think this adds to the runway that we have.
When you look at the inaugural season for the 4 teams and 24 games, I'm curious, as you guys already have plans for season 2 of being a touring property in the inaugural season and then a city-based league in 2026, what are the plans for how the league will launch, and then more importantly, how it will continue to grow in the future?
Sure. Our plan is we are launching on June 7th. As you mentioned, we'll be a touring property. At the end of the year, we're hoping to expand 2 teams and picking 6 markets from the 10 that we're going to be visiting. And then just attach those teams to cities. And we'll, talk about expanding through a draft of some sort, et cetera. But really exciting.
Exciting.
Yeah, this is so exciting for this league. And Kim, I'm curious from your perspective, having spent so much time with Major League Baseball, so much time with teams like the Marlins and the Dodgers and others, where do you sort of see this relationship between Major League Baseball and this league going? And are you tapping into those existing relationships to help build this new league?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I think this particular deal with MLB being the central office and and hopping on board, I think is going to open a lot of eyes. We have gotten a lot of incoming traffic on the minor league side and some from the big league side, but I think this is going to open eyes even more, so that hopefully that incoming traffic increases. It's all just so exciting.
Well, congratulations to you, Kim, and congratulations to this league. I know all of us are going to be excited for this inaugural season and see where this all grows. Kim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. You take care.
And don't go anywhere, guys. Coming up next on Front Office Sports Today, the Olympic GOAT, Michael Johnson, joining us in studio to tell us more about Grand Slam track happening this weekend. That's ahead. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back, friends, to Front Office Sports Today with Renee Washington. I'm Baker Machado, and Grand Slam Track has its third slam race coming up this weekend in Philadelphia. So who better to get a preview of that and what's going on with the league than four-time Olympic champion and eight-time world champ and founder, of course, of Grand Slam Track, Michael Johnson. Michael, good to have you here. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
So you guys just announced the full field, 96 racers and challengers going to compete in the Philadelphia Slam. How excited are you for this? And you've had two already under your belt. How do you sort of look at this one compared to the last two?
Yeah, we just keep trying to get better. I mean, that's what it's all about. Just like being an athlete, you're always looking for improvement. And that's what we're doing with Grand Slam Track. We started off in Kingston month and a half ago now, 2 months almost. And
Kingston, Jamaica, by the way.
Yeah, in Jamaica, yeah. I found out when we were in Kingston, Jamaica, that there was a Kingston, I think, Ohio or something like that.
Well, there's a Kingston, New York. That's upstate, too.
Yeah,
so I was like, wow, races everywhere.
I mean, I wanted to make sure nobody ended up in Kingston, Ohio, looking for Grand Slam Track.
Where are these guys?
But then we moved to Miami. That was fantastic as well. So yeah, we're really excited. Athletes are excited. They love what we're doing. They love the format. They love the drip tech, with the outfits and all of that sort of thing. So just really modernizing the world's oldest sport, and focusing on head-to-head competition, the rivals, the best athletes in the sport, and then the storytelling around that, which you typically don't get outside of the Olympics, right? So we're bringing that 4 times a year now instead of once every 4 years.
Without a doubt. And I love that you wanted to add fuel to the fire that's already been lit in track, especially as someone that, when you look at your decorated career, there's so much people may not have had a chance to get to know about you outside of all your Olympic and world medals that you've won, of the Duck, Superman, the undefeated for 7-year streak that you had. What is it about this league that differentiates it? Because there are others that already exist, to allow athletes to be able to build their brand, build their name, and also connect with an audience in a meaningful way.
It's exactly those things that, no one's been doing to this point. It's not, we have signed the athletes to a league, right? So as opposed to being a league of, or a series of events, or a league of events, we are a league of athletes. So that way fans know that the best athletes are going to be there. Cindy McLaughlin-Levrone is at every one of our slams because she has committed to it. Kenny Bednarik is at every one of our slams. Gabby Thomas, Cole Hawker, Messiah Russell, all of these athletes, and their rivals, have all signed up and said, I'm going to show up each and every slam, compete against my rivals, and you're going to get to see it. And that's what is different. Prior to Grand Slam Track, the best athletes rarely competed against one another. That was a problem for the athletes because they want to consistently prove to the world that I am the best. And the only way to do that is to compete against the best on a consistent basis. Signing the athletes to contracts, guaranteeing them fair compensation, a base compensation, but also unprecedented prize money, $100,000 for first place. And our athletes love it. And a platform that allows them to connect with fans. These athletes are doing a great job themselves of connecting with fans through their own social, but they need a platform that helps them, and a partnership that helps them to connect more with those fans, and that's what we're doing with
Well, on the topic of the best, I mean, yes, you have gotten a lot of good, racers and athletes to compete so far, but look, there are some other big ones still out there. Noah Lyles, Sha'Carri Richardson, others. How do you sort of get those big names to still be attached to this? Or are you sort of just saying, come whenever you're ready?
Come when you're ready. I mean, all of the best athletes are here. The best prize money is here. The best television exposure is here. These are the things that I talked to all of these athletes before I started Grand Slam Track. I said, what are your pain points? What is it that you don't like about the sport? What would you like to see in the sport? And they said, we want to compete against our rivals. We want television, exposure. We want to be seen. We want people to see us. We're televised in 205 countries around the world. We're on the CW here in the US and simultaneously streaming on Peacock. So if you want what you say you want, come to Grand Slam.
But do you see them joining down the road? Like, do you envision them being a part of this?
I think so. Given that what we're doing and what we're building, and the fact that our athletes are saying, the ones that have joined, which is who we really should be focused on.
Right.
In fairness to those athletes, they're the ones who said, hey, you know what? I'm going to jump on this. This is what we said we want. I'm going to jump on this sport. The athletes in this sport have had more freedom than athletes in any other sport. They can run whenever they want, not run when they don't want. They can pull out of a race the day before with no penalty or consequence. And that's a problem for the sport. And that's why they're not realizing much value. So, we could talk about the athletes who hadn't joined, but it's the ones who did join that are making a difference and that are out there giving the fans what they want and realizing value for themselves.
I mean, you've always been one, Michael, that's pioneered in the sport, whether it was back in '96 in Atlanta, winning the 200 and the 400 in the golden shoes, as we almost are 30 years to date, celebrating that incredible accomplishment. Why now, though? What was different to allow you to be able to have the TV deals, the opportunities for athletes in the Grand Slam track in this iteration? Because it's something I read that you were considering trying to do for decades at this point.
I thought about it for a very long time. When I stopped my track career, I went to be an entrepreneur and built other businesses and other areas. And I recognized that, what is happening right now in the media landscape, what's happening in sports, there's tremendous and unprecedented investment into sports. And there's a reason for that. It's the only thing that people will actually make an appointment to view is live sports. People are all about live sport now. And so now is the right time for those reasons, but also particularly in track because over the last 30 plus years, I've continued to stay close to this sport, and I have never seen a collection of personalities like what we're seeing in the sport right now. And they, as I said before, they're doing such an amazing job themselves out of necessity, connecting with fans and using their own social media channels to brand themselves and build their own brands to connect with fans. So we're just kind of adding fuel to that fire and partnering with the athletes to use their social media and our social media and our profile and theirs to actually bring more people into this sport.
It's incredible to think 30 years ago was when, the Atlanta games happened, Michael. Just incredible to see the journey that you've taken us on as fans and everything that you've created. By the way, Philadelphia Slam, is it on CW or Peacock this weekend?
Both.
Both?
So we're on
Okay.
both. So you can get us anywhere. You can get us on Peacock. You can get us on CW. If you're not in the U.S., you can still find us. We're in 209 different countries. But yeah, Saturday and Sunday this weekend, both on Peacock and the CW.
Amazing. Easy to access.
Yes.
2 slams down, 2 to go.
Amen.
Exciting times.
The great Michael Johnson in the building. Of course, you can watch, as he mentioned, the Philadelphia Slam this weekend on Peacock and CW. All right, we got a lot more front office sports headed your way right after this quick break. Welcome back, friends, to Front Office Sports today with Renee Washington and Baker Machado. And as the future of the college football playoff continues to be debated, LSU coach Brian Kelly mentioned SEC and Big Ten schools are talking about scheduling regular season games against each other, which would only strengthen the two super conferences' chances of making the college football playoff. So let's play a little buy or sell NCAA edition, Renee, and let's start off with this. Buy or sell, the SEC and the Big Ten will schedule regular season games against each other.
I'm buying. I'm going all in. I actually prefer this more than expanding from a 12 to a 16 team format because every year there's always controversy around which teams make it into the college football playoffs because of their regular season. They play a lot of conference teams. It's hard to get a sense of where they really stand in the full playoff picture. So I think from a postseason perspective, it actually simplify the process a bit to give the committee, when they're looking at record, strength of schedule, as well as margin of victory and head-to-head, a better table to look at. But I also think for the regular season, think about those teams that don't make the playoffs. And now you have an opportunity to see an SEC Big Ten matchup on your schedule. It just makes the regular season games that much more enticing versus those blowout games you get, especially in the early portion of the season. I think it'll add extra oomph to the regular season for teams. That'll just give them extra to look forward to. So with how quick college football flies by, I am all for adding more competitive games, an LSU Ohio State type of matchup, regular season. Instead of waiting for the playoffs, I'm buying it, Baker.
I'm buying this also. I mean, it feels very much like this is basketball, where it's if you strength of schedule obviously is most important now, rather than those blowouts against random teams that they pay millions of dollars to blow out, which they thought was just padding their schedule. But we're just seeing more synergy between the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, Brian Kelly's LSU Tigers have already played USC and UCLA in Louisiana already. So the big question will be, is it going to be 8 or 9 9 conference games plus this Big Ten game. And then as a result, do you then see more of these Big 12 and ACC teams then getting squeezed out of the process of the college football playoff?
I'm all for a better non-conference schedule. Do it.
Meanwhile, on the basketball front, NCAA President Charlie Baker said discussions are underway with March Madness broadcast partners CBS and Warner Brothers Discovery about expanding the men's tournament from the current 68 teams to 72 and maybe even 76 teams starting next year in 2026. So Renee, buy or sell, March Madness will expand to 76 teams. That is bananas.
When a guy with the name Baker speaks, I'm listening. I'm buying it, Baker. Listen, I think because of not only the president, Charlie Baker, saying this of NCAA, but also hearing others. I know Kansas coach Bill Self came out saying on the first day of the Big 12's league conference meetings, I should say, their spring meetings, that it was discussed about expanding, and everybody was all for it. We've also heard others come out, Brett Yormark, who mentioned as well, the commissioner of the Big 12, that there's been possibilities of the expansion. The only issue is TV deals being a big factor because there is a 2032 timeline for when the TV deals with TNT as well as with CBS will expire. So they have to make sure that financially it makes sense for the TV deals. So they're not expanding the games at little to no cost, but can make sure the TV deals align with the expansion. So I'm buying this because according to Baker, it seems like this is going to happen. Not this Baker. It seems like this is going to happen actually relatively soon, especially since as recently as yesterday on Wednesday, this has been a conversation. And we know when they're talking about it, that means it's closer to the deal getting done.
This Baker agrees with that Baker. Charlie Baker made the point that because of the automatic qualifying of teams winning their conferences, and we're talking the small schools that are out there that qualify for the tournament, then all of a sudden other good schools, as we see every year with the bubble, get squeezed out. This now allows them to get inside the tournament. And look, I'm all for more games because every person loves March Madness.
And it's
so
not
more
just
of it's better.
SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey, who had 14 of his 16 teams in last season's Big Dance talking about this. It's a number of conferences that have been interested in this. It's more opportunity, more excitement, and who doesn't love more March Madness games?
Amen. All right, friends, let's see what's bubbling over at the FOS water cooler. All right, Renee, the NFL and the New England Patriots say they're aware of that video that's circulating all over online of receiver Stephon Diggs on a boat surrounded by women passing around an unknown substance. Now, Coach Mike Vrabel wouldn't say if he's talked with Diggs about the video, but his rumored girlfriend, Cardi B, apparently was also on the boat. What do you think of this?
This is interesting.
What do they do?
So, okay, in his first speech to the Patriots, Mike Vrabel said he had 4 rules, and one of those rules was no cell phones at team activities. And I guess he forgot to mention no cell phones at extracurricular activities, too. Because I'm not sure why this was being recorded, but you have Stephon Diggs coming off a torn ACL. I know people are saying, why wasn't he at OTAs? He's actually not even ready to play after tearing his ACL in October anyways, but it does make it more, when you look at this bigger picture, his issue with the Bills, especially with Josh Allen, his history leading up to this, and now this, from the Met Gala to courtside at Knicks games to now on the yacht. I'm not sure what Stephon Diggs is doing, but do not record it. That's what I do know.
And he obviously is very much needed for the Patriots this next season for Drake May. All right, guys, coming up on FOS tomorrow, actor Owen Wilson's going to tell us about his new Ted Lasso for Golf show that you're going to love. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.